You're listening to the Killer Bees
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Broadcasting live from the Mobile Veritex Community Bank Studios, located at Karbach Brewing Company.
Welcome back in. It's time to start Rock the Mic. The finals being joined first by the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Nick Stevenson, host of Houston Sports State of the Union. He doesn't claim to be some insider or expert when it comes to X's and O's. Neither do I. His podcast is for the fan and by the fan. Nick is now a writer for SB Nation's The Dream Shake, and you can find him on Twitter at HSSTU podcast. HSTU podcast.
Two S's.
Two S's.
Yeah.
Nick, thanks so much. You're a finalist. Tell us a little about yourself.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say this is dope, man. This is really dope. You guys reaching out to the Houston podcasters. Some really good guys in this group, so I'm proud to be amongst them. Like I said, man, I'm just a fan. I know I had the gall to call myself the president of Houston Sports Nation, but I don't do that because I believe I'm better than the fans. I'm one of you guys. And I challenge anybody to say they care more than I do, but I'm not sitting here pretending that I know more than everybody else, man. I'm one of you guys and want to represent you guys the right way.
Good to have you, Nick. And because you said challenge, I'm here to do that. So then we're going to start with that. You got a Texans hat on, so we'll go right to the Rockets question. As a fan that knows a little bit, or feels like he has a little bit more than the average Rockets fan, break down the roster for me. What are you trying to do? What are you looking at Şengün? What are you looking at Jalen? What do you think they should do as a franchise with two guys coming up quick on contracts?
All right, man. So I am a very patient Houston sports fan, and I know that might be rare, but I'm one of the few guys who really, really believes in Jalen Green. I'm looking for him to have a breakout season. I actually wrote my first article in the Dream Shake comparing Jalen Green's first 3 seasons to Kobe Bryant's first 3 seasons. Now, immediately I got dumped on. I got dumped on.
I have a cough button. Okay, go ahead.
However, just hear me out. I'm not saying Jalen Green is Kobe Bryant or he's going to be Kobe Bryant. And they played in 2 different eras, so it's always tough when you're comparing these players. But I lived in Los Angeles when Kobe Bryant was going into his 3rd year. Fans were frustrated with him. He was supposed to be the Magic Johnson to Shaq's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he was not what they thought he was going to be. So one thing they did never do, though, is they never suggested that he should be traded. And I think it's insane that people have suggested that Jalen Green, who just turned 22, should be traded at this point. Now, this is a big year for him, and I agree with what Rafael Stone did by not giving him the extension. I think he needs to prove it. And I'm 100% on board with that. I think he's going to ball out this season, and I think he's going to become a restricted free agent. I think somebody will offer him the max, and the Rockets will have to match that and bring him back.
Very good. I like hot takes. And then you defend them. Don't worry about pleasing Joel. We never worry about that.
Never.
We give the best takes that we have, and then we defend
100%.
the takes, even if Blankers doesn't like it. D'Amico Ryans, head coach of the NFL, the Houston Texans, the local team in this city. Had a great first year, led them back to prominence, into the postseason, won the AFC South. Where does D'Amico Ryans stack up amongst the best coaches in the NFL?
Okay, well, I think it's still early, but I've actually had this debate in the AFC South Warzone Facebook group. Shout out to them, because they're saying that Doug Peterson is the best coach in the division, and I understand he won a Super Bowl. He beat Tom Brady. That was, a decade ago almost. I think this season, D'Amico Ryans, he proved when he was in San Francisco and here that he can make players better. I don't know. Did you guys know Brian Cashman was going to be as good as he was last year? I know I didn't. And I feel really comfortable with what he's going to do with the staff this season. With the cornerbacks, Kamari Lassiter, I actually wanted them to get Kool-Aid McKinstry. It felt like to me at the time that maybe Kamari Lassiter was kind of their last resort because of the 2 guys that went ahead of him. But I believe in D'Amico Ryans. So if he says that's the guy he wanted and that's the guy he believes in, I have no reason not to trust him at this point. But I put him, as far as the young coaches, I put him right up there with, the Sean McVays, the Shane Steichens. I put him right up there, man. And what he's done with this team in such a short amount of time, it's incredible, man. And the fact that he's a homegrown guy, the fact that he played here, it's great, man. And every Houston Texans fan should be super excited about this season, man.
All right, Nick, we know what we got with the Astros. We know we've had a surplus of injuries after starting the season with a surplus of starting pitching. We've seen some really good starting pitchers that have shown their wares throughout the season to say that they're formidable. We know what Justin Verlander brings to the table. You make the playoffs. You're setting up your rotation. Who's your ace, and how are you setting up the rotation for the Houston Astros?
I mean, the ace right now has to be Fromber. I mean, in his last 8 starts, he's been killing it, man. He's got a sub-2 ERA. He's striking out people like crazy. That curveball is back. And I got to give credit to Bill Murphy, the pitching coach, man. When Brent Strom left, I didn't think anything really of this staff as far as pitching goes. That's why when they brought in Kikuchi and he had a +5 ERA, I'm like, Brent Strom's not in this building. He's not fixing that. And what he's done with his pitching staff, I mean, you got Hunter Brown in his last 5 games. He's got a sub-2 ERA. And even, Eric Getty was great last night, and I know his ERA is high, but he's striking people out like crazy. So I want to give credit to the staff and to Joe Espada. I know there's people in this building who wanted that dude fired like 2 months ago. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, I'm a calm and patient Houston sports fan. I was telling my audience, like, let's just pump the brakes, give this guy some time. And if I had to set it, it'd have to be Fromber as your ace, man. I would probably go JV next, and then Kikuchi. I mean, as long as he keeps up doing what he's doing, I don't see why he shouldn't be the third starter going into a playoff series.
Did the Astros win the Yusei Kikuchi trade?
I'm going to say if he comes back, and this is the one thing that scares me. I'm afraid he's going to ball out this season, and then they're going to pay him an exorbitant amount next season, and he's going to fall off a cliff kind of like Montero did. That is my only concern. But if you don't bring him back, it's going to be really hard to say that you won the trade, unless they win the World Series, right? If they win the World Series and you say, hey, Dana Brown, you did what you were supposed to do.
But isn't the trade, regardless of what happens next season, the trade was made for this season alone because
100%.
you gave up 3 guys that have the potential for playing a long period of time for another organization.
And that's going to hurt. That's why this season has to be, I say at minimum, you lost it if you don't make it back to the ALCS. And if you win a World Series, then I say it was well worth it, man, no matter what happens with those other guys.
You mentioned Jalen Green earlier and had
That's
high
my
praise.
guy. That's my
for
guy.
him. Pick
Really your guy.
one rocket that you have to build around to try to bring a championship to Houston.
This is what I've said about Jalen Green. When he reaches his max potential, there's nobody on this roster that is capable of doing what he does. And we've seen what he does when he's at his best. And I'm telling you, if he reaches his max potential, he's in the conversation with the Anthony Edwards, with the Shea Gilgeous-Alexanders, even with the Victor Wembanyamas. If he reaches that, now that's going to be up to him. And this year, I'm really, really, really rooting for him to do so. I got a lot of subscribers to the Dream Shake who think I'm crazy. But listen, man, I'm a very patient fan. Like I said, he's 22 years old. What were you doing when you were 22? I know me personally, I was working at the mall selling fine jewelry and making some bad career decisions at the time. So I'm not going to sit here and judge a 22-year-old kid who's not at the top of his craft. Now, I understand there's a lot of money in this game. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's hard for me to still – I love Şengün, man, and I think him and Jalen together, that's the unfortunate part about last season is they were just kind of starting to figure out how to cook together when Alp got hurt. But if they can figure it out together, there's nobody on this team. Not even Cam, as athletic as Cam is, nobody on this team can do what Jalen Green can do.
We know the Texans had a really good year last year. We know the fact that they turned it around a lot sooner than a lot of people thought they could. Now a lot of people are getting on the hype train. They're believing everything and so much more. When you look at this Texans team this season and you look at what the ceiling could be and then what the basement looks like, where do you see how high can this team go and then how low can they go?
Yeah, my best case scenario when I did a show predicting, like I know anything, but I predicted best case scenario they go 12-5. I think worst case scenario maybe they win 9 or 10 games. I think they're just too talented to completely fall off. I think they're going to win the division. I know that the division has improved, but I like to go with what I know versus what I think might happen. So I 100%, Houston Texans fans, you should be excited about this team. Like, don't plan the parade yet, but you have every right to be excited. Considering what we were dealing with in years past, absolutely. You should be hyped, talk trash to your Cowboys friends and family. I'm 100% on board with being excited about this team. But like I said, I'm ready to see it on the field, man. I just can't wait for real football. I'm tired of them pretending to play football.
Don't sound like an Easterby fan.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a matter of, oh, man, that could be a whole other segment, man. We might have to do a whole show together.
President Nick Stevenson of Houston Sports State of the Union.
Thank you guys
Find
so
him
much.
on Twitter at HSSTU Podcast. What do we think?
Hey,
What do
Sean,
we
I love
think?
you. Hey, Sean, I love you.
Nick.
All right, we keep
Thank
it
you so
rolling
much.
next. Moon Stamp Sports will be the next podcast finalist of Rock the Mic. The Red Bull Show Run coming to Houston September 7th. Cannot wait. Love me some F1.